Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, folks? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Great to have you with us, both live on YouTube and on podcast. Andrew Paterson and Michael Remis with you with a packed show today. So much of the conversation this week on this program and around Canadian sports spaces has been about the Canadian Football League. And we've got the commish on today to talk a little bit more about everything that was announced on Monday, where the league goes from here, and how they came to the decisions that were announced on Monday. Had some great questions popped in from listeners, which we'll get to, as well as some others for the commissioner. So that's coming up right off the bat. Now, of course, the Bombers have a big game Saturday afternoon, Princess Auto Stadium, 2 p.m. versus the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Was great to see Zach Caleros back out at practice. Ed Tait of the BlueBombers.com team will join us later on today for the latest on the Bombers as they prepare for the TiCats. Pat Gregoire at the end of the program. We'll tee up a little Ryder Cup and Thursday Night Football, as well as we'll check the pulse of Jays fans right now who are really going through it. But as I tweeted out last night, for all of you Blue Jays fans that are freaking out right now, your team has clinched the playoffs. There's still very much an opportunity to win the AL East and get that bye. And if you want to know where things could be worse, look no further than the Detroit Tigers, who on the 10th of September had a 99.9% chance of winning the Central and making the playoffs, that have now been caught by the Cleveland Guardians. And the Guardians are now in first place, and the Tigers are just one game out of missing the playoffs entirely. A collapse unlike anything that I've ever seen right now. So tough times for the Jays. They've got a chance to get back into the win column. They technically are still leading the AL East, albeit tied with the New York Yankees. Got to find a way to get a win tonight against the Boston Red Sox and then finish it up strong going into the playoffs with their final series at home against the Tampa Bay Rays. So Patty on a little later on. And of course, we're going to dive into the Jets. We're going to hear from Gabriel Velarde, as well as Nino Niederreiter and Davis Payne on the power play coming up as we start off the show. And Ken Wiebe down at the rink, he will join us a little later on today. Speaking of the Jets, if you missed yesterday's show, we've had a lot of people asking. The WST ticket nights, our games of the month are back, and they are live right now, so you can grab your tickets. I would suggest, folks, if you want to join us and take in the home opener, you do it now. Go to winnipegjets.com/WST and grab your tickets. We're really thankful that the organization was able to get us some seats in 316 for the home opener, which is sure to be a sellout. Jonathan Taves returned to the National Hockey League, seeing the banners and all that. We launched this yesterday, and we're just about 50% sold for those games. So if you're planning on going to the home opener, why don't you join us? Of course, the ticket includes a drink and a pregame mingle, and you can buy them right now at winnipegjets.com/WST, and you can certainly get on the other games as well. Nikolai Ehlers return Friday, November 21st against the Canes. Friday, January 29th against the Los Angeles Kings. They got a great giveaway that night as well. The Habs game, February 4th, Wednesday. That's the final game before that long break for the Olympics. And then after the Olympic break, 2 more games, Thursday, March 5th against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Saturday, April 11th against the Philadelphia Flyers. The urgency, though, is on that home opener right now. So if you want to join us for the first game of the season, which should be a really special night and a heck of a matchup against the Dallas Stars, winnipegjets.com/WST. Jump on it now. Do want to thank the rest of the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet, Princess Auto, the HSC Millionaire Lottery, Rollies Transfer, Canadian Club, and St. Vital Dental Center, Manitoba Battery, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, and Royal Sports, Assiniboia Downs, and Breezy Bend Country Club. Of course, we'll get to a Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. And, of course, your feedback for fansfirst.ca. Let's get Michael Remis in here and get this show on the road. Remo, how are you?
I'm feeling great. I do wear a Seattle hat daily on this show, clinching the West Division for the first time since 2001. I know no one here cares, but it's an exciting time here as the baseball pennant race. You mentioned the Tigers with the historic collapse. The Astros might not even make the playoffs. And yeah, the Blue Jays, man, it's you're kind of getting a bit sweaty here watching this lead evaporate. Thankfully for them, they are still tied with the Yankees and hold the tiebreaker. So this should be a very fun weekend here going down to the wire. What has been such an incredible year for the Blue Jays, being in first in the AL, first in the East for months now. But all that could evaporate here in the final weekend. So Guerrero Jr. getting tossed yesterday, frustrations boiling over. It's definitely exciting.
Yeah, and again, it's a bullpen game today. I think Louis Varland is going to be the starter today.
Ooh.
Which is interesting, although the Jays are a favorite at minus 139. They were a dog yesterday. Crochet was just absolutely dominant yesterday. And, hey, they got to find their way. There's still a few games left. But, I mean, just search some Tiger spaces right now if you want to see real freakouts. But listen, just before we dive into Jet stuff, Bomber stuff, bring in the commissioner, we need to address the elephant in the room here. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone that joined us for our WST poker night last night over at Coolbet. A heck of a lot of fun as always. But we have a problem, Remis. We have a big problem. Because Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press, aka Short Side Snipe 9, won again last night. And I'm not sure we are ever going to hear the end of it. Hammer's on the show tomorrow. I was grateful that we had a day before bringing Jeff on for his victory lap. But you know what? It's at a certain point, you just got to tip your cap and applaud. Very well played by the Hammer, who steamrolled last night. Got a little lucky maybe, but that's part of the game. But overall, really, really fun night playing with everybody over at Coolbet last night. And thanks to everyone that came in. And got to give him his due. He did it again.
When Jeff won the first time, I was on here slagging him, saying, oh, he got so lucky. He kept getting the cards. I think he took me out last time. And I actually played pretty well. I made it to the final four, and the top three got paid. And I wasn't getting the cards. Maybe I could have played more aggressively. But I finally went all in, ace queen or something, and then Hammer called me ace 9, and of course hit the flush to take me out and take the bounty. So congrats, Jeff. He had the chip stack, played very well. He started throwing it around and was able to take out the final two and win the big prize, and then texted me after, have a great night, triple exclamation mark, after I sent him a congratulatory text. So
I mean, it's bad enough dealing with his trash talk in the fantasy football league, but to have him just roll in and win the first two times he played, listen, I'm telling you right now, for the next tournament, there's a bounty on Hammer. I have no doubt that I'll be able to make this happen. If not, I will pay it myself. But there is a bounty on Hammer's head in the next WST poker tourney, which will be next month as part of our Wednesday night series. So consider that done. We're adding another bounty, and it's on the Hammer's head, who is now 2-0 in the tourneys. But a really fun night last night. I hope you all join us for it, and we'll fill you in. Can't remember. I'll have to get that schedule, but it is a Wednesday in October. No Jet game. A lot of fun last night. Listen, we're going to have Ed Tait on with us a little later on. And we'll get the latest from Bomber practice and kind of really dive into what's been happening around the club this weekend, heading into Saturday afternoon. But it was great to see Zach Collaros at practice the last couple days. I mean, yesterday we heard from Zach with his thoughts on the rule changes that were announced, which was the big story. Also talked about some of the concern that had been voiced from both fans and media members about him post this last injury. But it sounds like Zach Collaros is trending in a very positive direction now that he's back at practice. This is what Mike O'Shea had to say yesterday, just on Zach being back out there with the ones and practicing yesterday for the Bombers.
Can you tell us if Zach was full participant, or you want to
He
wait
was
for
out there running around.
Out there running around, same as yesterday, kind of, same level.
Well, we less plays today.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you run the number one offense a lot of the time?
What's the number one offense?
Okay.
What's that? They're dressed, they play.
All right.
O'Shea having some fun with Freezer yesterday. I'm expecting Zach Collaros to play. Big news out of Montreal. Davis Alexander will return to the club for their game against the Calgary Stampeders, who have some big-time quarterback issues of their own. We'll kind of dive more into the Bombers later on. And, of course, first up, the commissioner of the Canadian Football League, Stewart Johnston, coming up at the bottom of the hour. But Jets continue to get ready for the upcoming season. Remo, we had of course, yesterday, got to pick apart the preseason game. And now back on the ice today in 2 sessions, getting ready for the final home preseason game, which is, of course, part of a little doubleheader in the Peg on Saturday with the 2 p.m. Bomber game and then Jets at 7 down at Canada Life Center.
Yeah, Saturday's the third and final home preseason game for the Jets. What they are in action. They are in action. On the 26th tomorrow night as well. So they do have a back-to-back. We haven't really seen rosters. They skated in 2 groups today. Connor, Shafley, Velarde, Perfetti, Taves, Nyquist was part of one group, and the second group had Niederreiter, Nemesnikov, Iafallo, Kepke, Barron, Pearson, and that seems to be what the top 4 are going to be. Other lines, Barlow, Lambert, Jilkin together, DiGiuseppe, Gustafson, Fajimo is there, and then Wagner, Ford, Chibrikov, Shaw, Jad, and then Dewar and Yeager splitting. So seem to have a pretty, top guy, NHL, AHL lines set. Dean Chanel spoke today and kind of indicated Murat putting out there that Tanner Pearson and Cole Kepke are options for the penalty kill, and Jonathan Taves will get some penalty kill time as well. So Murat, got the impression that Pearson and Kepke will be starting. He said good bets to make the 4th line as expected. So as much as it's fun, talk about Colby Barlow's awesome preseason, how great he's looking, how slim this roster seems to be set. I think there are questions about the defense, like, are they going to be putting Ville Heinola on waivers? I mean, after all this time we've spent talking about Ville to just go, or Logan Stanley. I'm not sure what is going to happen here. The D pairs: Morrissey, DeMello, Sandberg, Pionk, Fleury, Heinola, Stanley, Salamonson. I don't know, and then Clegg and Shen. I don't know what you can gather from the pairings, but someone is going to go on waivers. Who's got an NHL contract?
I mean, barring some sort of a deal. I mean, they're not keeping 9 defensemen, and they might not even keep 8. And listen, the free Ville movement might. There may be the opportunity for him to be free to one of 31 other teams in the National Hockey League, if there is any takers that'll have him on their NHL roster. The split between, and again, we'll ask Ken. My read of this is that the Session 1 group, Connor Scheifele, Velarde, the Taves line, Morrissey, DeMello, Sandberg, Pionk, Hellebuck, I'm expecting that to likely be basically the group and the roster for the game at home on Saturday, which would mean that the traveling group for tomorrow, is Vlad, Iafallo, and Niederreiter, Barron with Kepke and Pearson, the Lambert line, as we mentioned, David Gustafson, and then the defense, Fleury and Heinola, Stanley Salmonson, likely playing in that road game. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, guys like Stan, guys like Ville, I mean, listen, if they're going to make a decision, which may, I mean, it's not like they don't have a lot of data or experience on a guy like Logan Stanley, less so on Ville Heinola. It's there, but we'll see it. Tyrell Bauer, Tico Napoli will happy. He's going to be playing with Phillips and Sotner and Bartow as well. In all likelihood, Comrie, Poulter, and Milik, a combination of those goalies making the move. So Ken will give us an update a little bit later on after the commish joins us from everything that happened today. But let's hear from the Winnipeg Jets before we kind of dive into this more. And Remo, actually, if we can, I want to start with number 7 because Davis Payne, who of course was a newcomer to the organization last year, part of Scott Arneal's staff, very integral in putting together that league-leading power play. And they got a lot of work to do to fill the massive shoes of Nikolai Ehlers and the difference maker that he was, both at 5-on-5, but on the power play as well. And as we talked about yesterday, Connor told us from the rink, Cole Perfetti is now in that spot as the fifth player on that 5-man unit with the man advantage. Here's Davis Payne on Perfetti replacing Nick Ehlers on PP1.
Nicky was great for us, but there was 2 units. There was probably 10, 11 forwards and 3 to 4 defensemen that were involved in the success of it all last year. So we sort of look at it like we've got really good pieces, and it's the mindset of each unit going out there that really makes the difference. Cole, in the time that Nick was hurt, did a good job during that stretch in that role, and so that's where we started today. There's lots of pieces and decisions to sort of figure out here in the next little while.
You know, I can't say that I'm surprised. Listen, Perfetti was a guy that went in when players were out last year. And, with the vision that he has and the player that he's turning into be, I think was the obvious choice, to be perfectly honest. But it's a tough act to follow from last season. And Payne was asked if they're going to be basically running the same operation as last year, or will there be some tweaks now that Nikolai isn't part of the group?
I think you always have to be looking to adjust. I mean, there's some base things that we want to do, but there's another group that's being paid a lot of money to try and stop us, and so they're coming up with different ways. They're taking different approaches, and we have to understand that if they're throwing something at us, we've got to be able to move to a different direction and move quickly. And I thought our group did a good job of that last year. There are a few things that we've addressed that we felt are areas that we can improve, and so there was emphasis on that today. Again, knowing that last year was last year, we've got to reinvest in this thing, and we've got to make sure that people know. We got to make sure that we know that people know we're good at what that part of the game, and we can't allow anybody to get ahead of us.
All right, so there's Davis Payne, who's in charge of the power play unit for the Winnipeg Jets. Dean Chenoweth actually talked about the PK earlier today after today's sessions, and we'll hear from Ken on how the penalty kill is shaping up and who might have some of those roles. We mentioned Tanner Pearson, Cole Koepke in the mix for PK roles, presumably at the start of the season. Remember, one guy I'm really looking forward to see now that he's got the 6-year contract, is committed to Winnipeg this year, will continue to have a spot on that top line with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, and play a big role on the power play as Gabriel Vilardi. And, listen, we see this team a lot more than a lot of people do, and maybe don't see as much of other teams. But I will say this, Gabe Vilardi has quietly turned into one of the most dangerous and effective power play players down low in the National Hockey League. And he'll certainly look to build off of a career year last year now that he's inked the long-term deal here to stay in the Peg.
Yeah, he had such a great season last year, was a huge part of that power play. And since he's come in, he's given the Jets that element that they didn't have. He's really good in front of the net. He can pass. He's got that quick shot, the turn and fire, and really helped their power play. And you look at his numbers, before the All-Star break, Four Nations break, 51 points in 51 games. After 10 and 15, he had the injury, and I think his production suffered. And you saw him in the playoffs; he was not at 100%. And you hope for him, Huss, that he can be at 100% for all 82 games, or if he does miss time, comes back and is more like himself. He's certainly capable of topping the totals he had last year: 61 points in 71 games, not quite 30 goals, only 27, but he's in a position here to put up some big numbers. And I think, weren't we talking about him like as an outside, like Team Canada candidate for the Four Nations? He was playing so well. So that might be a stretch here, but I think it shows how great he was playing, and him, Connor, and Shafley, really a nice fit there on the top line. They're going to look to continue that here this season.
Well, and I mean, he's certainly a big part of the success of the Winnipeg Jet power play. And, Vilardi spoke a little earlier and was asked about, his role in the power play and that group looking to continue the success that they had last year being at the top of the league.
Keep working on it. I mean, it's not really momentum. It's a new season. Yeah. Obviously, similar units, you could say. So, same coach. So we've got a lot of the same system. So hopefully we can, build on last year.
One change, obviously, is Cole stepping in, but he's played there before, obviously, when Nick was hurt in the past. Do you think that you guys will be able to just kind of pick up where you left off, that he's a good fit for that group as a whole?
I don't see why not. He's done it before. He's filled in before, and obviously he's a really smart player. So it's, I think we should be good. We need to get more reps. Obviously, it's going to come with time. Need to play games. So
nice duster added to the mix for Vilardi this year with the new stash. And Rima, I will say this. Listen, a lot of guys sort of go through the motions. Gabe Vilardi quickly became one of my favorite guys to interview. I mean, we had a great one-on-one with him last year. There's the stash. Amazing. We had a great one-on-one with him when he joined the club right out of the gate at training camp when he first arrived in Winnipeg. And, I mean, just the way he kind of, like, he does some of the great facial expressions when it comes to some of these questions from the local scribes. You got to be sharpened on your game when you're talking to Vilardi.
Yeah, we've had him on a couple times. He's pretty honest, gives you his opinion. I always enjoy chatting him and hearing his thoughts. And we hadn't really heard from him coming into the season, coming off the big contract. He had that clip where he talked about how much Winnipeg is like home to him now, and signing, an extension. We're going to have him here for a number of years. So always enjoy hearing Vilardi's thoughts on whatever questions may be.
And if people remember, when he joined us after signing the deal, he was pretty clear in saying that he hopes that, in a couple of years, people are looking at this deal and think it's a great deal for the Winnipeg Jets, which would mean Gabe's being very productive. And of course, the power play is a big part of it. Here's an interesting one. He was just asked about the relationship and what they've learned from Davis Payne through the time that he's been on the coaching staff.
really smart power play mind, offensive mind. He's helped me a lot in my game. But yeah, just in terms of the power play adjustments, obviously different systems than 2 years ago. But yeah, a lot of in-game adjustments. He's a really smart offensive mind.
All right, now here's one more from Gabe, and this is what it's all about. Raising the big trophy at the end of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, it is early, but every team setting their goals for the year. Here's Vilardi on if he's comfortable saying that the goal of the Winnipeg Jets is to win the Stanley Cup in 2026.
Yeah, I don't really think about it, honestly. I don't have a perspective. I'll say the Stanley Cup, I'm not jinxing anything. Yeah. But I am a day-by-day guy. I mean, to look at the playoffs right now is pretty far stretched. I haven't played a preseason game. So
one of the things that you said this summer that stuck with me after you signed your contract is you really see you talk about a 4 or 5 year window where this team, like you got Scheif, you got Helly, you got a lot of good pieces in place. Mm-hmm. When you know that, when you feel that in an off season, does that add urgency to a season? Does that add any sense of feeling for you now?
Yeah, I mean, you could say so, but I think we had it last year. I mean, it's just the expectation every night is to win. And you can say that, but whether you actually believe it is different. And I mean, I truly believe it. I don't know if I think the proof is in the point. We won the President's Trophy. We can win any game, and I do believe we have the roster in here.
All right, so there's Gabe Vilardi with the new 6-year deal here with the Winnipeg Jets. Now, another guy we haven't heard yet from is Nino Niederreiter. And Nino, of course, is going to, looks like he's going to be starting the season with AI on the wings with Vladimir Metsnikov in the middle. Nino talked about wanting to continue the power play success this season as well, as he was a big part of the second unit that had a big role in that #1 NHL ranking.
I mean, we know we gotta be very sharp right from the get-go to put up numbers like we had last year, but at the same time, it's a new season. We did a lot of good things last year, but obviously teams are watched us what we did in last year, so we gotta make sure we are even sharper, we're gonna be even better, and that's the emphasis of today.
Is there excitement to have a guy like Jonathan Tait joining your unit? Looks like he'll be on that secondary unit with you and some other guys. What's that like to be able to get some reps with him?
Well, it's definitely fun, obviously. I mean, it was the first day basically being on the ice with him, having the same jersey on, so it's definitely get some used to it, but we had some good talks on the ice, and I think we can only run from there.
Well, everybody accounted for right now in the lineup with one major exception, and that, of course, is the heart and soul of the Winnipeg Jets, the captain, Adam Lowry. Here's Nino Niederreiter on missing his pal Lowry right now through training camp.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's tough to replace Adam. Obviously, he's a big guy for our locker room, is it physically or even just having as a present in the locker room. So it's obviously a big piece which is missing, but at the same time, Floyd is a great player. He's a Swiss Army knife. You can put him anywhere at any time, and he's always a great player. So I think we had some good looks yesterday in practice, feel more and more comfortable together, and obviously take some time to get used to.
Just on the power play, Nino, one big change last year was you had a new coach kind of running it in Davis. What did you learn, I guess, about him as a coach, and what kind of things did he maybe introduce that really helped it succeed the way it did?
I think he has a very high expectation, and obviously he takes a lot of pride in what he wants to do, and his emphasis of being great and don't miss a beat is definitely huge, and I think that's where his level of hockey sense comes through.
All right, and listen, just before we're going to turn over the conversation to the Canadian Football League and the commissioner, Stewart Johnston, Nino Niederreiter also talked about training camp this year, and if it feels different because of the high expectations going into this season after what they were able to accomplish last year.
It's tough to say. Obviously, we know how good of a group we have here, so it's obviously very exciting going in a training camp like that, knowing that we have definitely a high-end group in here, but at the same time, nothing's given to you, so you got to make sure we come right from the get-go, kind of like we did last year, but knowing also, I mean, we had a great record right from the beginning, but all the teams weren't sleeping. At the end of the day, it was a tough stretch all the way through till the end to collect that first place. So it's something which we know we got to be ready from the get-go.
And just one more from me. Nikolai Ehlers obviously was such a dynamic part of the overall power play, so you'll have to try and replace him. Cole, it looks like, is going to get that first chance, but just collectively as a team, what needs to be done to kind of fill the absence of a guy like him? And did you have talks with Nikolai when he was debating? You obviously have background with Carolina. I'm sure he might have picked your brain a little bit, right?
Yeah, he definitely picked my brain a little bit, but at the same time, it's his decision, his future, and I think that's where he went with. So he asked me some question which I had the chance to answer, and everything else, obviously, there was a gut feeling for him, and he makes a decision for whatever is best for him. So it's hope nothing but best for Nicky, but it's a guy which is definitely hard to replace. I mean, his speed was terrific in the lineup, and he was always good for something. So it's a piece they're missing, but at the same time, has opening chances for other players to step in and do a great job, and I think that's what we have to do.
All right, so there's Nino Niederreiter, Ken Wiebe coming up post-practice a little bit later on today after we speak with Commissioner Stewart Johnston of the CFL. Folks, tonight is the night. Midnight is the deadline for the fall bonus for the HSC Millionaire Lottery. Now, we know that this is the biggest lottery of the year, supporting so many important initiatives at Manitoba's Hospital, the Health Sciences Center, and this is also your opportunity to be Manitoba's next millionaire. But if you're going to be getting in on it, you may as well do it today, because you'll be eligible for the fall bonus, which closes tonight, worth over $48,000. You'll have the choice, the fall bonus winner, of a 2026 Toyota RAV4 XLE all-wheel drive, or $40,000 in Indigeno travel vouchers plus $5,000 cash, or $40,000 cash, and there's going to be two additional winners of gas and groceries, $1,000 in Red River Co-op gift cards. But to be eligible for that, you got to get your tickets by midnight tonight. So do not wait. Get over to hscmillionaire.com. You can also buy them in person at London Drugs or any Red River Co-op location. And of course, you'll be eligible to win everything that the HSC Millionaire Lottery is giving away, including the grand prize of either $1.25 million cash tax-free, or one of 5 different grand prize options of beautiful $1.5 million dream home options, with 4 in the greater Winnipeg area, and 1 out on Vancouver Island. So gang, do not wait. Get your tickets today before midnight, hscmillionaire.com. And good luck to all of you on being Manitoba's next millionaire, and appreciate everybody supporting the Health Sciences Center Foundation. Our friends at Rollies are ready for jet season, and they're ready to roll if you and your family are on the move. Rollies Transfer, proudly family owned and operated for over 60 years in Winnipeg, is the most trusted name in moving, now into their 7th decade. Check out their website at rollies.com. And in the top right corner, click on Request an Estimate. Make sure you put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know when and where you're planning on moving, what needs to go, and the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment on all of your precious belongings, as they've been doing now for over 60 years. For all your moving needs, lean on our friends at Rollies. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollies.com. Speaking of going into fall, things are busy over at St. Vital Dental Centers. Everyone's back in school and back at work after summer holidays. Maybe you haven't been to the dentist in a while. Well, if it's time, pop by and see our pal, Dr. Terry, great supporter of Winnipeg Sports Talk, and his wonderful staff at St. Vital Dental Center. They've been serving generations of Manitobans and Winnipeggers, and can take care of clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. And of course, they're doing it all at a beautiful new facility, 167 St. Anne's Road, with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building. For all your dental needs, St. Vital Dental Center is waiting for you. Give them a buzz or make an appointment online at stvitaldental.ca. And hey, big Bomber game on Saturday. I hope they've stocked up the Canadian club. Of course, CC is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and is enjoyed by many of the 32,000 plus that'll be there, not only over in the Rum Hut, but throughout the stadium as it is available, along with the world-famous Canadian Club and Ginger Ale, pre-mixed cocktail in cans. But in addition to the game on Saturday, pop by your local Manitoba Liquor Mart this weekend while supplies last. The special Bomber label Canadian Club bottle available for Blue Bomber fans to pick up. And while you're at it, don't forget about that CC Club pack with the CC Ginger Ale, the Citrus Smash, the Half and Half, available as well, all at your local Manitoba Liquor Marts. All right, Ken Wiebe coming up a little later on after Jets practice today. Right now, though, let's welcome in the commissioner of the Canadian Football League, Stewart Johnston, for more on the big announcement from Monday for the future of the CFL. Stewart, thanks so much for doing this. How's the week been? Pretty quiet around the CFL offices?
Not a lot going on. Yeah, just a quiet week. Yeah, it's been very interesting. Lots of attention, lots of reaction. And we're seeing and hearing and listening to all of it, and I'm happy to go on shows like this to kind of further discuss what was brought out on Monday.
Well, I can tell you this has been some of the most passionate CFL discussions we've had here in Winnipeg, a CFL mainstay city, and it just goes to show how much people do care about the Canadian Football League, if anyone was thinking otherwise.
I couldn't agree more. If there was ever a doubt in anyone's mind, I hope this week has erased it. There certainly was no doubt in ours. We know the passion of our fans, and I appreciate that passion. That is what drives our league, and that's why I hope if there are, we've seen a lot of support, a lot of people understand what it is we're trying to achieve, and then there's folks who don't have a good opinion of it or have some questions and doubts, and I'm happy to come on shows like this and discuss it further.
Listen, you're very early in your term. These are big changes. Was this part of the plan right from the get-go that, coming on, you had a mandate to move this league forward, and you felt that these needed to be made, or was there more people kind of as part of this group that decided that this is the way the Canadian Football League will be best served moving forward?
Well, I think that my mandate was don't accept status quo just as is. Review, examine, and see how we can push our league forward. How do we take our great game, this incredible sport called Canadian football, and grow it? We need to grow, we need to grow fandom. We need to grow the business metrics. We need to have profitable teams, and we want to solidify our place at the top of the North American professional sports echelon. And that's our goal. And this was a group effort analyzing one step. And I want to emphasize it is one step. Now, we're not looking at any other rule changes. So please, there's nothing else from a rules perspective, but we want to look at everything, how we drive the business forward.
Well, I think there is definitely a conversation to be had on what has made a team like the Bombers so successful over the past 10 years, and how that can be replicated otherwise in other areas that have been more struggling in comparison. But the genesis of these ideas, the way I read it, some don't, is that this is to make the game better, to make it more entertaining. If you can, just take us back to starting off, what you were looking for and how you and the group came to the announcements that we heard on Monday that will significantly change the game in the next couple of years.
Sure. The catalyst was really the goalposts. That was it. It is we looked at the data. 80% of all attempts going into the end zone are to the sides. And it's no wonder. We have a massive obstruction across the middle of what I would call one of the most important areas of our field. And so we started doing some analysis on, well, if that was moved to the back, what would be the impact on our game? We know obviously 15 yards back or 20 would be a significant impact on the kicking game. But we did, when we took the analysis forward, all our data points to 10% more completions in the end zone, 60 total touchdowns or more per season, and an exciting brand of football where quarterbacks and game planners can use that entire field without worry. Defenders don't have to worry about getting picked off by a big immovable metal object. And offenses where starting deep in their own end actually can use their entire playbook and the entire field instead of being pinned to the short side. So it was wow, we can increase touchdowns, perhaps at the expense of some field goals. That's a trade I'm willing to make in a world where we're trying to drive entertainment. And then we take out collisions, we take out picks, and we take out that restricted playbook for when you're starting deep in your own end.
I like many people and many of our listeners have loved and been going to CFL games my entire life, and certainly consider myself someone that would be, would champion the league in football conversations. But I also love all football. I'll be watching the NFL on Sunday, and I'll be checking out what the Manitoba Bisons are doing, and even paying attention to the local high school. And it is, to me, it's never an either or. But there are people that feel that, particularly the goalposts and shrinking the field to 100 yards is taking the Canadian Football League closer to the standard of the National Football League, which, of course, is the powerhouse of all professional sporting leagues. What's your counter to people that, are worried that this is a step towards just taking the Canadian Football League and making it NFL-like?
I understand. I understand that reaction when people start putting pieces together and projecting forward. I get the fear. Because as a CFL fan, my whole life, I've had to defend the CFL in many conversations with folks who maybe say, hey, the NFL is the only great league. And I've been the defender of the CFL for my whole life. And I think a lot of the people who are projecting that have that scar tissue like I do, because we've been such staunch defenders of our league. Now, like you, I love all forms of football. I love U Sport, I love NFL, I love NCAA, and most of all, I love our game. I guess what I would say is this. There was not a single thought that these changes were about an Americanization or drifting closer to that game. This was, I gave all the reasons for the goalpost. Those were the reasons. And the shrinking of the field really comes up to this. It's keeping field goals in the game, and I think almost getting us back to where we are now. If a team starts a drive in their own end, they are now only 5 yards further away from field goal position than they are currently, because the goalpost went back 15 and we took 10 out. That was it. That's it. For me, Canadian football is about 3 downs, 12 players, 65 yards, motion, yard off, Canadian ratio. These are the key elements of our Canadian game. And we truly believe all we will accomplish here is to expose it in an even greater way.
I have to give you and your team credit. I mean, the conference was presented in a very professional way. And as someone that, was going into it with an open mind, I appreciated the data that you guys put together and the displays. When we're talking about moving, like you also brought up a bunch of the analytics, like when we're talking about moving the goalpost and what that does in the end zone. I'm wondering, with moving the field goal post to the back of the end zone, them being 15 yards and 100-yard field, was there data at all about what happens in the middle of the field in traditional field goal kicking territory right now in the CFL? And do we expect to see more teams go for it on third down, or is it sort of a wash and we might just see some punts in those areas? Or was that really even dove into?
It was absolutely a key focus. And that's the hardest to predict, because you're trying to predict what goes into the coach's mind.
Yeah.
But, I like to think of the example of the ball's on the 35-yard line. It's 3rd and 2. Right now, a coach is thinking, well, that's a 42-yard field goal. And if I miss it, kicker's got plenty of leg. It's through the back. I get a point. So pretty easy decision. Let's take the safe points. I get at minimum 1, probably 3. That same situation under the new rules will be a 57-yard field goal attempt. And plenty of our kickers have legs to get it through the back of the end zone at a 57-yard attempt, but there's no single point reward. So the coach must think right now, how likely is it that I'm going to get a 57-yard field goal? And if I punt it, I've got to nail that coffin corner punt. And if I don't, the field position is going to come all the way back to where I am regardless, if I had an unsuccessful third down gamble. So what I like about it is those tactics, I think, come much more into play. We know that touchdowns, interceptions, and going forward on third down gambles are some of the biggest moments of consequence, and therefore some of the biggest moments of entertainment.
Stewart Johnston is the commissioner of the Canadian Football League with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I think to traditionalists, the smaller field and the goalpost was the sort of thing that, really gave them the sticker shock. The one thing that we've had the most questions about, though, is the standardized clock at 35 seconds. And I will say that this press conference was on Monday night after the Chiefs and Giants played. And if you watch that game, the final 2 minutes of that football game after the 2-minute warning was played in victory formation. And Andy Reid and Brian Daboll were shaking hands at center with 20 seconds left in the game. That certainly isn't something that I think anyone wants to see come to the Canadian Football League. Can you just clarify how this 35-second clock will work, and how will that affect the final 3 minutes of CFL games, which are famously far more entertaining than any other brand of football I've ever seen because of the way the clock has always worked?
Right. I completely agree. We do not want to land in a world where it's a killed clock for 2 to 3 minutes. Prior to 3 minutes, it's pretty straightforward. When the ball is dead, the 35 seconds starts, and you've got 35 seconds to snap the ball. That's pretty straightforward. And what we love about that is it delivers a consistency that we don't currently have. Right now, that 20-second clock does not start until the referee blows it in, and it on average takes about 15 seconds to blow it in. So 15 plus 20, you're already at 35. That's our current mode. However, it could take 22 seconds to blow it in. It could take 12. It could take 30. We are just trying to get to a consistency. Everybody, the fans in the stands, the coaches, the players, the broadcasters, everyone knows this is how long you have between snaps, or a dead ball to snap. Now, in the last 3 minutes, I am purposely dodging that question because we want to find the right methodology that achieves what you said, that delivers an exciting, comeback-filled last 3 minutes. And we're gonna take that to a group over the course of post this season into early next year, analyze all of that, and we're gonna land in a spot I am very confident where we're gonna deliver some fantastic finishes.
Yeah, just on that, how much is now on the shoulders of the rules committee, considering these significant changes for the next couple of years? I mean, I'd imagine that the meetings and the discussions between that group are going to be significantly different because they are going to be dealing with somewhat of the unknown, and I would hope that are going to be able to react to things that maybe don't turn out the way that have been planned or rolled out on Monday.
Absolutely. The rules committee has always played an important role. I think the rule they came up with in the most recent significant change that they came up with was narrowing the hash marks. Was well thought through and a great rule, and it's had the impact it was intended to. It's opened up both sides of the field, which is fantastic. So we'll lean on that rules committee again for not only reaction to how things are going under this new setup, but also for other tweaks and other new ideas moving forward.
We had a ton of questions knowing that you were coming on the show from listeners, and I see the clock was one. I mean, Julian and Leslie were asking about that. Another one of our listeners was asking, with these decisions and changes being so drastic, was there a thought of potentially, trying them out in exhibition games first, seeing how things went before making those changes? Or when we're talking about changing field sizes, something you have to really commit to as a group, you don't really have that option?
I think you got to the answer there with the second piece of that question. It was when the infrastructure that's going to be required in our stadiums is pouring new footings, redoing our turf, new paint, and we know if a U Sport team is also playing there, and they don't adopt these rules, we'll just move it back and forth the goalposts, and we'll repaint each before each game. That's fine, but that's pretty drastic to try and go for testing.
You mentioned U Sports, and that's something that I did want to get up, and we've had a lot of people wondering what this means for football in the country. Now, listen, I'll preface this by telling people, if you've just been in Manitoba, I mean, I grew up playing 6- and 9-man and then high school football, Canadian football, 3 downs. It is not uniform around the league. We've got 4-down football being played in BC. We've got 4-down football in some places of Ontario being played. So, I mean, depending on where you are, things are different. But there is a trickle-down effect, I would imagine, particularly for U Sports and at the grassroots level. Have you spoken with Football Canada? Where do they come in all of this? And I guess, what is your hope moving forward that these changes might bring to grassroots football at minor levels across the country?
Well, the first hope is that the changes made at the professional level create such excitement that it grows the game of football. That when all these touchdowns that are going to be unobstructed and more plentiful get shared on social and driven through live broadcast, I hope it grows the game of football simply because our outstanding game is going to be enhanced to such a new level. However, I won't speak for Football Canada or U Sport on the direction they want to go. They're digesting all of this as our fans are digesting it, and they will have to make some decisions. We're fully available to have those discussions with them, to tell them, walk them through all of our work that we've done in the background, and I'm sure they've got a lot to think about. These are significant. We only have 9 stadiums; they've got many more. So that's an infrastructure play. I do agree with you. There are significant differences in pockets of football all around the country, one from another already, and even within field sizes. But whether you're playing in a high school that just was tight and changed its size and just to fit the area that they've got, there are a lot of changes, a lot of differences now. But we do believe that removing a metal obstruction from the middle of the playing surface is a benefit.
Just on that, and this was from another listener. Other than the immediate standardization of CFL fields for the league, where the end zones are the same, I mean, that was a kind of a quirk, almost like Major League Baseball ballparks, where it wasn't all the same. Are there some other long-term benefits that you see in the shorter field, whether it be potentially making the Canadian football game more mobile for special games and other events, or to show this off if this game did or games were played outside of current CFL stadiums?
So I think those are good points, and they are part of the maybe knock-on benefits that I would say as part of these changes, but certainly not really inciting the change themselves. So we would like, number one is more seating available in the stadium, right? It's shrunk by 20 yards, so more places that each of these clubs can look at to bring premium seating, social areas, that sort of thing. It could be a lot of fun. That might be another knock-on effect. But yes, if we're playing a neutral site game somewhere in Canada, maybe it's more amenable to whatever area that we want to go to. Sure, that could be a possibility, but simply not major thought processes that we're going through this.
Stewart, if you could, I mean, probably the one thing that I like to hear, but I was maybe the most surprised in the press conference was that you had, I believe the quote was, enthusiastic and unanimous support from all the partners. Tell us a little bit about that, how it came together, and the will of every team in the league, including the Winnipeg Blue Bombers here, to support this, to move forward for the good of the game.
Yeah, well, I think that truly, once we took each of the league governors through the logic behind the changes and how it would make our brand of football, our 3-down, 65-yard wide brand of football, even more exciting, create more highlight-worthy plays, drive more entertainment, take out player safety risks. There just was, it was almost like a common sense thing. It really did, the logic flowed. So once we talked it through, yes, everyone understood this is a significant grouping of changes. But they said, we all agreed, and they could not have been more unanimous and enthusiastic in saying, yeah, this makes sense. This will drive the entertainment value for our fans further and give our players a much more open canvas upon which to play.
Like anywhere, we've got a lot of passionate football fans, especially here in Winnipeg, CFL fans, and there has been mixed. I mean, some people that, have said, I've said, listen, I'm open-minded, and to me, when it comes to Canadian football, nothing here is a hill to die on. I actually like the way you guys have kind of been creative and modified the Rouge, because I do agree it would not be good for the league to finish a Grey Cup with a guy blasting a punt through the end zone or a missed field goal to win. But the fact that it's still in there, and I think it encourages returns for balls that go in there. I mean, the one casualty of this, unfortunately, is the missed field goal return for the most part. And we saw a very exciting one that could have potentially turned the Bombers season around last Saturday. But again, this is all part and parcel together of moving this product forward. But kind of getting the CFL to where you want it to be, which I would imagine is a duplicate of what's happening right now in Winnipeg across the country. I think there's a lot more to it. This is the first point of emphasis as far as changing the game. What's happening behind the scenes with, trying to get maybe some of these organizations that haven't, for whatever reason, done as good of a job at filling their stadiums, at connecting with their fans. To me, I would imagine that there's a number of phases of how you look to get the Canadian Football League to where you go, and not all of it is just on changing the field or the goalposts.
Oh no, absolutely not. This is one step, and there are more planned, and there's going to be more announcements you're going to hear from us. Let me be clear. No announcements on rules. There's nothing else we're looking at. This is just business, the business of the CFL, the fun of the CFL, marketing of the CFL. that's what we're really focused on now. And so I think from a league office perspective, we're very excited. We're super energized. We see a path for growth for this league to show it off in a way that it never has been before. So we're very excited about the things we're working on. In terms of club to club, last time I was in Winnipeg, I said the Bombers are the model franchise for the entire league, and I'll say it again. It's so impressive what the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have done. Their connection with the community's connection in with the brand and the team is truly second to none across the league. It is impressive. And Wade Miller, to his credit, and this is a point I make to the other members of our management council across the league. It's a grind. Wade Miller's been at it for 12, 13 years. It's not an overnight success to where it has been. And so you've got to take each step. It's not a magic potion here. It's a number of different things. And Wade has been so amazing at sharing best practices. And not all of them will translate to every market, but they are certainly best practices that I think we all can learn from. And a huge credit to him with all the effort, and him and his team, I should say, all the effort that's been put in and the success that they've seen, that he is such an open book in sharing that formula.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Wade because, listen, under his stewardship, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have turned into the standard right now in the Canadian Football League. And to be honest, I refer to it as almost a golden era. I mean, growing up, as good as the Bombers were and as fun as the games were, they were sold out every single game. So, the job that they've done speaks for itself. And I say this to people that are the real hardcore CFL traditionalists. Wade Miller grew up here in Winnipeg, played high school football here, was a youth sports player for Manitoba Bisons, played his entire career in the Canadian Football League, and is now, I'm not sure there's anyone that exemplifies what the CFL is about more than him. Tell us about his role in all of this. And did you have to convince him for a while? Was he all in? Is this something that, he's a guy that I think carries a lot of weight, not only here in the city, but around the Canadian Football League. And I was interested in a guy that has lived CFL football his entire life, how he came to be on board with these changes along with the organization.
Well, I'm sure you have had or will have Wade on this very show. So certainly ask him. I'd like to hear him describe his reaction. But what I can say is, over the course of our first meeting on it, from start to finish, everyone's reaction, of course, is a surprise and or shock. And then you understand, you walk through the logic. You walk through the logic of what it's going to do for our game. And by the end of it, I will say my interpretation of his reaction was great enthusiasm. And from that meeting forward was outstanding support. He is an important voice in the CFL for all the reasons that you described. And it was important for me to have that meeting with him and that relationship with him.
Now, Stewart, I'm sure you've had tons of response on both sides of this. Certainly we've talked about, fans, some not so happy, some, kind of excited to see what this game is going to be once these changes are enacted. But obviously a very important group is the players. And listen, we heard Zach Caleros be pretty positive about it, Bo Levi Mitchell, Davis Alexander, some of the bigger stars in the game. But the biggest Canadian player, Nathan Rourke, wasn't entirely on side. What was your reaction to what Nathan Rourke had to say the day of it? How do you take that? And have you spoken to the CFL's golden boy since he went in front of the cameras?
Well, it's what's true. I was at Ted Gouvea's celebration of life yesterday. By the way, what an incredible ceremony that was. The speeches were outstanding. It was just really touching and beautiful. And all the Hamilton TiCats were there. So I was able to talk to a number of players, and I spent some time with Bo Levi, and he repeated his comments to me about how excited he is. And that was great to hear. And I will say that the vast majority of players who I've communicated with or who have communicated to me through other means have been very supportive and excited. But yes, Nathan Rourke is a top superstar. Forget Canadian, just a top superstar in our league, and it happens to be Canadian. And first reaction is everyone can absorb and digest and react to news like this in their own way. I don't judge him for having his opinion and his reaction. I didn't, certainly didn't appreciate some of the comments about me and my love for football, because I'll put my love for football up against anybody's. I've been a passionate fan of the sport of football my entire life, and so. But having said that, I respect what he has to say. I tell the story that when he had his first turn at the CFL, I was mesmerized with his play, just mesmerized. It was so impressive. I was cheering for him, A, because he's a Canadian, but B, because he was just so good. And when he went to try out in the NFL, I paid such close attention to whether he was going to get that opportunity to take the field, because I knew that if he had a chance, he was going to succeed. His skills are that good. And of course, I love the fact he's in the CFL right now, having a historic season and doing what he's doing. All of that's great. So it was important for me to see if we could connect, and we have. We have had a very lengthy conversation together. I'm not going to talk about what was said. However, I'll say it was absolutely filled with respect from both sides. And I think in any situation like that, it's really good to just have a face-to-face conversation.
Well, that is good to hear. And I'm sure the phone and the inbox has been full from people around the country as well since Monday. How long is it going to take you to get through all those?
It's there's been a lot of reaction, and yes, it has been kind of all over the map in the reaction. There's just huge excitement about the changes themselves and what it can do for our game, and then there's excitement just to see what would happen, and then the others who are concerned, and if I could sum up those that are concerned, at least the communication to me, the interpretation I have is it's a lot of concern about what might be next, and maybe even were the intentions exactly how I laid them out for these changes. And so if I could take a moment to reassure you and your audience, there was no nefarious Americanization intention with these rules. It literally was everything I just said about the goalposts. There's so much logic to moving the post back and creating that space for our players to play 3-down football, that the other changes were knock-on effects just to make sure our game stayed intact as it is, with goalposts at the back. And going forward, we are committed to the game that we've got. I've got no percentage of my thought process or anyone at the league office's thought process is on other rule changes. We've got lots of work we want to do on the overall business and marketing of our game, but that's it.
Stewart, really appreciate you jumping on with us. I know how busy of a week it's been. Wishing you success and the league success moving forward. Should be a great run to the playoffs. And of course, we'll look forward to seeing you and maybe getting an update during Grey Cup week right here in the Peg in a couple months.
I can't wait.
All right. Appreciate the commissioner joining us for an extended chat on all of those topics today. No doubt that the the chat's been popping over the past half hour. Why not question of the day for not Autocorp, but Waverly and McGillivray is your reaction to this and your thoughts on the changes. Needless to say, we've got a ton of comments. So let's just dive right into fan feedback for fansfirst.ca. Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market, where what you see is what you pay, no added fees. Bomber games available on Fans First, and of course Jet games for the upcoming season. Listen, I mean, there's a lot of comments on both sides. Wesley says, I mean, this is, I don't know why we need to go personal attacks on this. I mean, said this is the guy who lost the NHL playoffs and turned TSN from the undisputed number one sports station in Canada into a maybe number two. I'll be honest, Wesley, I don't think that's really fair. And at a certain point, if the Rogers family wants to empty the coffers for billions, I mean, like that's just a corporate decision. I mean, it's not a decision that the president has to make. That's the people that are paying the bills. Chad G, There was a goalpost bias. These changes were going to move them no matter what. The end zone and field changes were done to try to make the change more palatable. Didn't work for me. Then Schnitzy, what up, Zach? I think these changes are just the beginning of a better marketing push and better stats. Let's see here. We've got, and then Tony Pop, this is funny. Even Hammer thought it was odd. Stu had a personal history with the goalposts in his playing days. Then bam, first year on the job, the posts are moved. And then let's see here. There's a few other ones. This is T. Will. There absolutely need to be some hills to die on. You have to keep the CFL distinct from the NFL. Making it more like the NFL is not going to attract the NFL fans. You guys make it sound as if they went to 4 downs. And 11 players and whatnot. Schnitzy, the benches on the same side, random play clock, failure point that can win a game, goalpost. These are all things to make the game more polished. This is just the beginning. And then there's a whole bunch of other ones here. Where was the one from Bobby B? Because I thought that was actually a well thought out. Larry, I would expect nothing less from you than a little bit of a curmudgeonly response. There was a good Larry one here at the end that I wanted to get. Here's just one more from Zach. I'm willing to give these changes time, but the CFL needs much more better marketing, stats that aren't embarrassing garbage, a streaming service that works, video game, better analytics. Preach, Schnitzy. You are 100% correct on that. And Dan Jets fan, I don't really mind the goalposts and Rouge. The extra point for the missed field goal is Lange. The time clock is fine. I'm scratching my head on the 100 yards things. And then Randy Zapp says softball questions by Huss. Well, maybe I was just, it was a slow pitch game. I didn't think so. And we asked him about the Americanization of games and all that. And listen, I listened to it. I mean, I'm kind of on board with this. And I mean, I'm allowed to have my opinion too. I mean, I think that they're doing this in the best interest of the Canadian Football League. And I think that, I thought they did a great job of backing up what they were, what the goals of these changes were in a very professional presentation that had data to back it up. Now, listen, maybe they will be wrong and I'll look like a dummy for, being somewhat positive on this. But, I mean, for me, the hills to die on were 3 downs, the wide field, the 12 players, the waggle. That is, to me, what makes the Canadian Football League unique and special and entertaining, and that is all there. And I actually, unlike many of you, I'm somewhat optimistic that these games are going to be better and more exciting with more scoring after these changes. So, as I said, everyone will have their own opinion on this, and the proof will be in the pudding when it happens. But I do appreciate Stewart taking that time to join us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Well, you'll be able to see the current version of CFL football Saturday, 2 p.m., Bombers, TiCats. Ed Tait's going to join us a little later on. Of course, the game's at Princess Auto Stadium, home of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete those projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, Brandon, or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Manitoba Battery's ready for the change of seasons, gang. If you need a new car battery, a new truck battery, something for the sled this winter, or batteries for literally everything. Stop wasting time and money at the big box stores when you've got a local option in Manitoba Battery with the best prices in town, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores, 2 convenient locations, and the best customer service around as well, including free battery testing at both their locations, because they'll deliver the batteries to you for free with any purchase over $60 anywhere inside the perimeter. It is just that easy. So keep a few extra bucks in your pocket, support local, save money and save time as they'll deliver them to you. Manitoba Battery with 2 locations and online at manitobabattery.com. And hey, the leaves are changing. We know fall's coming. Guys, if it's time to up your menswear game heading into fall and winter, Head on down to F Apparel at 190 Smith Street downtown, the leader in men's custom clothing for over 15 years in Winnipeg. Custom suits starting at $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the best selection of menswear accessories around. If you are getting married or in a wedding party, make sure to talk to the fellas about a special discount for wedding parties when they get their suits for the big day. Pop by and see them in person at 190 Smith Street. Check them out online at EPHapparel.com for more promos and to make an appointment to come in for a fitting. All right, fresh off time out at the Hockey for All Center, Ken Wiebe of the Winnipeg Free Press joins us now. Wiebe, how are you?
Andrew, great to be with you. Doing tremendous. Thank you. How about yourself?
I'm well. I'm looking forward to. This honestly is one of my. I love September for sports. I mean, the excitement of the hockey season being back. NFL's here. Playoff races in Major League Baseball. The playoff push in the Canadian Football League, and my favorite event in golf, the Ryder Cup this weekend. So. The docket is full, and there's lots to get to. Hey, listen, I mean, you're a hockey guy. You've covered hockey mainly for the time, but just what was your reaction to what we heard from the Canadian Football League Commission this week and the plan changes for the CFL? Where are you at? Do you have an opinion on it?
Yeah, I don't have a huge interest in making the bold proclamations here, Huss. I think there's some things that are going to help improve the game, and at the same time, I think I'm much like a lot of people. I'm curious if this is sort of the beginning or if it's closer to the end point before I can really weigh in. I think Zach Collaros kind of nailed it, and you touched on it on the last segment. I mean, some of the distinct things like the waggle and yard off the ball, like those are the things that make it Canadian. There's always an interesting, we've seen enough passes off the uprights to suggest that that's pretty obvious that's an easy change to make. That doesn't change the character of the CFL game. I think it just makes it better for everyone. And some of the stuff, we'll see what it means in the big picture. The extra 10 yards is going to make a huge difference. I'm not sure. Overall, I think that there are some things, and here's the most important thing is this, Huss. Adapt or perish, right? I mean, this is very simple. It is a game that has got a lot of interest, and I also think that in our market, we're a little bit skewed on the viewpoint because the Bombers have done such an incredible job of integrating that portion of the fan base, the 20 somethings or the 20 to 30, the younger demo, Huss, they've made them a part of the product and the festivities. But that's also because, Bomber game has become Manitoba's biggest social, right? I mean, I'm not 100, let's just put it this way. I'm not 100% certain that those folks that they've brought in are clamoring about this being a good or a bad thing, Huss, because it's more of an event for some of those folks. So I can understand. So some of the traditionalists are, have their nose out of joint or aren't fired up about it and are fearing of the future. And to be honest, when some of the tweets started to surface before the announcements were made, I was bracing myself for, again, when I say something worse, I don't mean, expansion to the U.S. again, but I think I applaud the owners. I applaud, the commissioner for trying to try something different to try to improve the game. And again, these aren't things that are, irrevocable or things you can't, tweak down the road. I hope that they keep some of the other Canadian things Canadian, but overall, let's just say I was expecting to be more blown away by some of the things. And quite frankly, I think there are enough things that make it distinctly Canadian to keep my interest. And keep other people's interests. But for me, I'm not going to stop watching the CFL because of what's been suggested here, Huss. Now, I'm not like our buddy Hammer that's watching every single game every week to help contribute to the around the CFL. But I like watching football. It's a fun sport. I like watching the NFL for the NFL. I like watching the CFL for the CFL. And overall, I think I applaud the fact that they're trying to make the product better. And quite frankly, that's a good thing. They should always be aiming to make the product better. Let's first see. We're in the hot take society, Huss, and people want to immediately let's sort of see how it plays out before we're certain how it's going to ruin the game and all of its history. That's where I'm at here.
Well, let's not forget, just since you brought it up, if we really want to take this back to where the league started, they used to not allow forward passes.
Right.
It was a big rugby scrum.
Evolution, baby. Come on, let's go.
No doubt. Appreciate that, and please don't mention Hammer anymore on this show.
Uh-oh.
He won the WST poker tournament again last night, and don't worry, there's a big victory lap coming tomorrow when he joins us to talk Bombers TiCats.
Very good.
I hope we get to the Bombers and TiCats tomorrow when he joins us, and he just doesn't explain his run to another win. But listen, let's get to the Jets, and we'll talk power play and special teams. I know they were working on, but Ken and folks, if you haven't read it already. Ken had a nice sit down with Ville Heinola, and we talked a little bit. Mike sort of teased it yesterday when he was on the show with us. There's no way around it. Ville has had a really tough last couple years between injuries and playing in an organization that has a really good team and a lot of guys ahead of him. And but it sounds like from reading it, he's come in with a really, really positive attitude, knowing that one way or the other, there is a light to the end of the tunnel, presumably that he'll have an opportunity potentially with another place if he's not here in the mix. And let's face it, reading the tea leaves based on the depth chart right now, it is probably a long shot that he finds himself in the top 7 or 8. Tell us a bit about the conversation with Heinola.
Yeah, Huss, Ville's just an interesting character, right? And, was at the draft when he was chosen, was at his NHL debut, and he kind of made the team unexpectedly, sort of saw a lot of the hiccups along the way. You see him go back to play in Europe. You see him at the World Junior. You see him try to find his way. You see all the injuries. And I just think that Ville's in a really good headspace, Huss. It would be very easy to focus on the negative things that have happened. If you're Ville Heinola or someone in that scenario where it just feels like nothing is going right for you. And, because he made it as an 18-year-old, he sort of he hit fast forward on the schedule, which makes it feel like it's taken him forever to kind of establish himself. But the crazy thing, he's not even 24 years old, or he's 24 years old right now. And I just think that he's in a place where he knows what he needs to do. He knows he can't make up for lost time. He's got to be the best version of himself. And, he's going to get a chance, whether it's with the Jets or whether he's placed on waivers. If he happens to clear, he's with the Moose. I still think that Huss, we talk about this all the time. First round draft picks who show some flash and promise have a better chance of being claimed than some others. I just think that Ville knows that he's at a crossroads for his career. He knows that, hanging your bottom lip or giving a woe is me speech is not going to get him anywhere. And he didn't give that. He was very honest. He said there were some dark days to Muratatesh and myself, but he also said that, he's back to loving the game and things are fun. He's enjoying going to the rink. He's not going to worry about where he stands if he's 7, 8, 9, or 10 on the depth chart. He's not going to spend time focusing on things he can't control. But at the end of the day, I think that Ville Heinola will be someone. We just started to see some players get placed on waivers today. We're almost at the point, Huss, I would say it's going to really be picking up on the old Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That whole when do you place certain guys on waivers versus hanging on till the end of training camp. That's going to be an interesting thing to monitor here, not just with Heinola, but with some of these other veteran guys that they brought in as depth pieces. Will Kevin Cheveldayoff try to shuffle some guys through early when there's no injuries in camp? Or do you wait until the end and think, well, teams will be less likely to pick somebody up because they have their own guys that they don't even want to put on waivers to begin with? So that's sort of where I'm at with that. But I feel like Ville's, he knows what he is, Huss. The toughest thing for him is that, if we're being completely honest, he showed up last year at training camp after making the team the year before, but getting hurt in the last preseason game against Ottawa. He came in thinking he was the front runner, or at least in a 1A, 1B position for the third pairing job with Logan Stanley, and never got the chance to compete for that spot. And then, quite frankly, Huss, he never got back up to speed. Yes,
Lost season.
He was cleared for health, but I'm here to tell you, when you play 2 times between January 16th and the end of the season, and one of those games is in the season finale when almost no one is playing, you have zero chance of making an impact in the postseason or salvaging what was a lost season, Hassan. And then there's no other way to put that. 2 games is not enough for a guy that's missed so much time as he has to even try to stay sharp and be positive. And, his ankle still was bothering a bit to the point that he had to get it looked at the end of the year. And then in practice, he got hit. He hurt his shoulder. So, there were a couple days where he wasn't at practice, and, it was just a tough go for him. But I feel like the toughest thing now for Ville Huss is that 2 years ago, he knew he needed to work on his defensive game in order to become an NHL regular. He hasn't had enough NHL reps against NHL regulars to even remotely show that his defending is improved from 2 years ago. So he's caught in this between a rock and a hard place in trying to show the Jets and other teams his best qualities, which are him as a puck-moving defenseman and maybe a second power play guy, to also trying to prove to people he can handle his responsibilities in his own end. And that's asking a lot of anyone, let alone, someone who's lost so much time in the last 2 seasons. But here's the thing. You have to show it, or else, people are going to wonder still if you can play in the NHL. And Ville is very confident that if he gets the chance and gets a long stretch, he can do the job. Now, the other part too, and the Jets are in this situation as, a team that's close to the cap. Yes, they have some wiggle room right now, but it's not just cellar dwellers that would be on the lookout for Ville Heinola. It will be teams that are like edged up against the cap, but maybe they can afford $800,000 in a puck moving defenseman. So the thing that Ville is up against it with the Jets, they already have some, I don't want to say undersized, but like 6 feet and under defensemen in their system, in their 6. So there may be another team that has a bunch of bruisers that can afford an undersized puck mover, even if you're not sure about the defending element.
Let me ask you this. I mean, and pretty simply, do you think Ville Heinola is an NHL defenseman? And listen, if you believe that, I mean, the top 4 is the top 4. They signed Hayden Fleury. They didn't have to this offseason. He's obviously in the mix. Colin Miller, Luke Shen. I mean, if that is your 7, there's a lot of body work. Everyone knows what Logan Stanley is. I mean, that and Ville Heinola is more of a question mark. Who's more likely to get picked up off waivers between those two if they both hit the wire?
Yeah, it depends what you need, Huss, to be honest. And to your first question, I do think that Ville Heinola can play in the NHL. Am I certain he's a top 6 player that is going to be on your second power play? No, I'm not, because he hasn't had enough of a runway to get to the point of, planting his flag and being that guy. But I do think he would be claimed. Again, some people may disagree, but because of the size element for Logan, even though, teams would like him to be more physical or fight more or be more consistent, I think both players would be claimed. So I'm not sure if I could say one would be claimed quicker than the other, but Logan's got a lot more NHL games than Ville at this stage as well. So, but I do think that both those guys would be claimed. And, I don't think, I know we've talked a lot about 7 or 8 guys. I don't think the Jets will put themselves in a position where both of them could be claimed. At least not at this stage of the proceedings. But yeah, I think that Ville Heinola needs to go to a spot where he can make mistakes, and that's not on a Stanley Cup contender, most likely, right? He needs to go to a team that is, and again, there's one team, Huss, and the full rebuilding plan, and that's the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think the Pittsburgh Penguins would be an optimal landing spot for Ville Heinola if he happened to be put on waivers or involved in a trade of some kind. They're a team that's, they don't mind if you make a mistake or two right now because they're trying to improve their draft position. But they're also in a situation where the future of Sidney Crosby is becoming a daily story, even though he doesn't want it to be one. But anyways, I don't know. San Jose brought in a bunch of veteran D-men like Orlov. So I would have thought last year San Jose would be a good spot for Ville Heinola. But I think they're kind of their musical chairs have mostly been filled, I think, but I do think that he's an NHL player, and I said this from the beginning. Now, I probably even said at one point I thought he was a top 4 guy. Now I've sort of shifted my expectations for him for being a puck moving third pairing guy. You can put him alongside somebody big and strong, and you can run him out as your second power play guy because of his ability to distribute the puck and get it through. But it's just hard to envision a scenario where he forces his way onto the Jets without an injury, because as we've talked about,
a few of them,
there's no power play time available for him. Even right now, he's behind Colin Miller when it comes to power play time, and we're not even certain Colin Miller is in the top 6. And if he is, he's in a job share with Luke Schenn. So now today, Heinola was with Hayden Fleury. So the fact that he's on the right side instead of the left, I mean, I don't want to read too much into that. It just shows his versatility. But again, if he was in the mix for the third pairing job, the more likely third pairing job is on the left side. So, and I think that it's very clear to you and I and everyone who's watched the Jets is that Hayden Fleury is ahead of Ville Heinola on the depth chart. And it's hard to envision Heinola, short of Heinola all of a sudden popping off the page in the last 4 preseason games. It's hard to envision a scenario where he leapfrogs him without the help of an injury, right? I mean, that's just the way things stand right now. And I mean, I would even argue, Huss, the other day, I mean, Cale Clegg had a very solid outing. I mean, he's a great explosive skater, offensive guy as well, can play on the power play. And, at this stage, Cale Clegg probably defends better than Ville Heinola. So, he's sort of up against it when it comes to his positioning on the depth chart. But again, I'm not in the coach's office, so I'm just trying to interpret things the way that I see them. I think that Ville will get a chance to play in the NHL this year. Whether that's an elongated look or not, that remains to be seen. But again, let's use another example. So the Nashville Predators just lost Nick Hague. It won't be long term. But I mean, if you're the Nashville Predators, do you want to take a week or 2 spin with Ville Heinola to see if he can be on your third pairing? You've got some size there on some of the other pairings. I mean, that wouldn't shock me either. And I mean, Huss, we know they're near the bottom they're near the top of the waiver wire, even if it's just a temporary solution or a Band-Aid solution. But it depends on how their camp is going and if they've got American League guys that can do the job or not, right? So, and we'll have to monitor how other teams do in terms of injuries and maybe prospects that aren't ahead of schedule. So that's another thing to consider over the next week or 2.
Well, you make a good point about the timing of everything. One injury in a certain team can change everything. And, there's a science. It's not science. It's actually more of a roll of the dice and trying to find it when they're loaded in your favor the best. Just clarify for people. I mean, and the one thing I do tell people, like if a Ville Heinola was picked up off waivers, it doesn't necessarily mean that's it for him in the organization. Listen, if he goes somewhere and sticks in the NHL, good for him. You're on to the next part of your contract. But I mean, if he was picked up, say around now, and got the 2 weeks and then is put back on waivers and clears, he would come back here, correct?
Well, as long as there are no other claims when Nashville or some other team tries to put him on waivers, Huss, right? I mean, that's the other part. We saw this with Eric Comrie. We saw it with Raphael Lavoie last year. Vegas claims, back to Edmonton, back to Vegas, back. Like, and Eric
what was
Comrie,
the circumstance that he didn't go back afterwards? Like, that's the one thing because you remember that?
I think
Lavoie went
Oilers,
back and then
Oilers did not claim. Or there were no other, I don't know. It was a very strange circumstance. I think there was like 2 teams made a claim the first time, but then the next time there were no claims. It was a strange scenario for sure. And I just mentioned the name because I was listening to Gary on the broadcast on the drive home on Tuesday, and Lavoie was playing. So,
but I remember us talking about it, and then I was saying, let's show.
Well, that happened to Axel too, Huss. That happened to Axel. He was claimed by Buffalo, then actually never made it there. There was some weird thing with the immigration, like the that sort of deal, and then he went back to where he was in Washington. And anyways, it's a complicated scenario, but yes, if some team claimed him and gave him a 2-week spin and then decided that they were trying to send him to the minors and nobody else made a claim, he could go back to Winnipeg in that situation, the way that it worked with Comrie a while back. But it's going to be interesting to monitor for sure. And we talk about this all the time. There's almost every single team in the NHL has a depth player that they don't necessarily want to lose. So you have to be sure that by claiming someone, that player is better than your depth player, because oftentimes those teams have to put somebody else on waivers. And if it happens to be a defenseman, that guy could be claimed. So it's a little bit of a cat and mouse game, and we're going to see how it all pans out. But I enjoyed the conversation. Villy is a quiet guy, but an upbeat person, Huss. And, the fact that he admitted it was really dark times for him last year, that I thought that was a great sign that he's like, that's a human emotion side, right? But he also knows that you can't feel sorry for yourself and you got to do the things to get yourself ready. So after a strong summer of training, he's hoping to put his best foot forward and see where that takes him, whether that's here or elsewhere. And, Scott O'Neill was very frank. Everyone who's not an established player is competing for work here. And the number of players competing for work is much higher than it was even last year for a team that's trying to win the Stanley Cup and wants their American Hockey League team to be better. So it's a simple process for Villy. Go out and play the best that you can and try to win a job, whether that's here or elsewhere.
Is that lip service from the coach? How much competition is there really for the opening night roster right now?
No, but I mean, there's still competition for, jockeying for a position on the call-up meter, and to try to if you're Phil DiGiuseppe, you've played enough in the NHL, but you've got to be better than a bunch of guys. You've got to be better than David Gustafsson and a bunch of veteran guys like Samuel Fagemo and even Mason Shaw, who was the MVP. But DiGiuseppe was the captain of the Calder Cup champions, and he also the year before played quite a bit with the Vancouver Canucks. So I don't think it's lip service in the most basic sense, Huss. But that also applies to Brad Lambert, Nikita Chibrikov, Braden Yager, Colby Barlow. Like, you can show really well, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to put yourself in a position to win a job. Elias Solomonson, excellent in game one, kind of so-so in game two. But Huss, guess what? That's what happens when you were playing your second year in North America. It wasn't that he was terrible the other night by any stretch. He still showed some of the, the qualities that make you believe that maybe he could be in the NHL sooner than later. But he also didn't have he had a failed clear on the power play goal that was given up. Now, it still took a otherworldly pass from Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and a really good one-timer from Isaac Howard. And I'm not just pinning it on Solomonson, but he over pursued on one of his back checks, and he went past his man, and then the rebound bounced out to his player. So, but again, all of these guys, it's part of the learning curve. Barlow was great the other night. Tons of scoring chances, really good back check. One tip he thought he had, the second one he got the goal. So all these guys are trying to establish a baseline with their head coach. And once the head coach sees that baseline, he talks to Mark Morrison during the year and says, hey, who's playing better right now, Colby Barlow or Sam Fagemo? And then you got to decide. You got to be better than the guy beside you.
Hey,
and whether you're a young guy or a veteran.
On Barlow, I mean, we talked about this with Mike yesterday. I mean, you've been at camp throughout has anyone of that young, the class of young guys trying to break in, prospects, whatever you want to call them, has anyone helped their cause in your mind more than Colby Barlow through the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, helping his cause, again, I just don't think that Colby has a chance to make the team right now, Huss, no matter how good a camp he has. He needs to do, and I know that's not what you're saying. That's not what you're saying. I think that Colby Barlow right now compared to last year at this time, night and day difference.
Yeah, that's
last year Colby looked slow and ineffective in his games and in the preseason. And again, we know he had a lost training camp the year before because of COVID, so you understand why it didn't go as well for him. But for a guy whose trajectory was kind of onward and upward, goes back to tough NHL camp, terrible start, doesn't make the World Junior team, and then incredible second half with his OHL team, scored a ton, worked on his body in the summer, showed up at camp kind of ready to rock. I think Colby's done a great job, and we all know that he can shoot it. That's obvious. Can he skate? Can he get involved? I love that he went to the hard areas. I love that he was involved in a back check. But yeah, in terms of, is he ahead of Brad Lambert or is he ahead of Braden Yager? I mean, all those guys are in a similar spot, Huss. But to me, the one thing about Yager is that it reminds me of last year with Brad Lambert. Again, one difference being he was a second-year pro versus a first-year pro. Jagger is doing a very sound job defensively, but he hasn't been as dangerous offensively. So there's that crazy fine line for a young player. You want to show what you do extremely well, but you have to also earn the coach's trust. So you're not going to be cheating for offense, because that's a red flag, and it almost puts you to the bottom of the pile. Whereas you can show that you're strong defensively, but you also still need to play to your strengths. So I thought Jagger was moving around pretty well in the skate today, but he hasn't really been dangerous offensively in the first 2 games for me. Brad Lambert obviously had the great one-on-one rush against the Wild, where he toe dragged the forward playing defense in that 3-on-3 scenario to draw the penalty. But I didn't think that he had a ton going on for him in that first game against the Wild. I thought he was a little better against the Oilers. Chibrikov, I liked his first game better than his second game. But again, we need to see what those guys do against NHL competition, Huss. So, that starts maybe on the weekend, but I would say the 2 games next week will show you who's really moved ahead of one another. And I mean, Solomonsson's still obviously in the mix. It's just going to take like almost perfection for him to force the Jets to, subject someone to waivers in order to put him on the team. And like we talked about last week, Huss, Solomonson doesn't only have to be better than one guy. He's got to be better than 2 guys at least, because he can't be the 7th defenseman in the press box. He's got to be on your 3rd pairing in order for him to be on the team, at least out of the gate, because sitting out or maybe even being in a platoon, it's not optimal for a guy at his skill level and age level. I'm not saying it's an impossible scenario, but it's more unlikely at this point.
They don't want him doing a bunch of press box time. They want him playing hockey and playing big minutes and
exactly.
continue to
Responsibility.
Get better. And that's why. And I think he'll play games in the NHL this year.
Agreed.
Just probably not in the month of October, barring some injuries. We were going through the groups today. I'm not sure if they announced it, but it sort of seemed to me, Ken, like the second group with Nito and Iafalo's line, Barron's line, Fleury, Hainela, Stanley, Salomonsson. Is that basically the group for the road game tomorrow night? And then Hellebuck, the Scheifele line, the Taves line, that's going to be Saturday's lineup for the final preseason game at home?
That's how I interpret it. I mean, Scott O'Neill didn't speak today. It was Dean Chenoweth, so we don't have we don't have clarity on the lineups. But I would say that it's pretty fair to guess that Connor Hellebuck would more likely be playing a home game on the weekend than a road game in the preseason. So that's sort of how I'm envisioning it. But I mean, I guess we'll find out officially tomorrow. But yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. A good job of connecting the dots, and that will mean first games for Scheifele and in that line in the game here, along with Hellebuck on Saturday night. That makes sense to me against Calgary. I thought that, I know you talked about it during the week here already, Huss, but I thought that Taves looked steady. I know that he was, pretty critical self-assessment, but I thought she showed great hustle on that back check to eliminate the shorthanded breakaway for Max Jones. I thought he created a really nice scoring chance for Gus Nyquist in that first period. He made a nice little nifty play where he almost got a sneak attack after he won a draw in the offensive zone on Calvin Pickard. I thought he was, again, his timing and all those things are going to come as we move along here. But again, I think it was an important first step for him. But I mean, for people who, think that he's going to be doing a victory lap just for being on the ice, that's not Jonathan Taves. So we saw that immediately in his post-game presser. And, he feels he has a lot of work to do, but I felt that it was a pretty good baseline for him on a night where he was 55%, Huss. He was down on himself, but he was, he would have been the best draw man for most nights of the season. So again, I think it was an important first step for him. He's getting back to that feeling normal, if you will, and I think he's only going to get better. Like Jonathan's going to be, if we look at April compared to September or October, I think there's going to be a dramatic improvement in terms of his game. But again, I'm not saying it's going to take till April, but this is a guy that gets better and better as the stakes get higher. So I think that he's going to continue to progress with his line mates. I thought Cole Perfetti looked good. Gustav Nyquist starting to move around. There's some chemistry with that line, but yeah, I mean, this is the beauty of it. Now we're going to start seeing NHL players, and those NHL players will start to, see where they're at against one another. So
yeah, I think the smart money is that Saturday night, if you're going to the game or thinking about it, you're going to see the Jets top 6, you're going to see the Jets top 4, and we'll probably see Connor Hellebuck if he. He's going to get into a game or two, and I'd imagine at least one at home will be the case after not appearing in the first 2. Folks, check out WinnipegFreePress.com for Ken's latest from Ville Heinola. Weber, have a great one. Enjoy the Ryder Cup and, of course, everything else going on this weekend. And we'll see you down at the rink.
Yeah, Huss, great to be with you as always. I've got a candid interview with Dylan DeMello coming up in the pages of the Free Press tomorrow. And as you know, I've been keeping a very close eye on that Toronto Blue Jays baseball club. A little bit of a free fall here this week. 6 of 7 games of 1 run or fewer. Tough to win games that way. But hey, Huss, I'm going to put it this way. If you had told me on March 25th that the Jays would have a chance to be tied and technically still have the lead because of the tiebreaker scenario with 4 games to go, I would have not believed you, but I would have been happy with the opportunity, and they would have taken that. So they're trying to avoid Panic City.
Yeah, if you feel bad as a Jays fan right now,
buddy,
just be happy there's an X beside your name, and then search the internet for some Tigers fans and where they're at right now, because that is, I never seen anything like it. Cleveland will not lose. They can't win. And they've gone from a 99.9% chance of the AL Central in the playoffs on September 10th to being a game back 15 days later. We've never seen anything like it. So,
they're in danger of missing entirely. Never mind getting a wild card. I mean, Houston's right there with them. So
they've got one game cushion and they can't win. The Scooble play where he hiked the ball through. I mean, it is
bizarro.
It is ugly right now. I honestly want them to get it together. I can't. If you follow Chris Castellani, I mean, his videos after every Tiger game. I mean, listen. I mean. Legitimately worried about some of those people. Anyways, Eddie Tait's coming up right away. Have a good one, Ken. We'll see you at the rink.
Take care, my friend, and have a good chat with my man, Edward. Cheers.
I certainly will. Ed Tait coming up right away. Of course, we've got a big Bomber game on Saturday afternoon, another full house. We got Thursday night football tonight between the Seahawks and the Cardinals. We'll talk about that with Pat when he joins us in a few minutes. And the Ryder Cup and the Blue Jays pennant race. So many great things to watch on the tube, which means you should probably get together with your gang down at your local Boston Pizza so you don't miss anything. Boston Pizza is your home for great nights for NFL football. Primetime games, spin the Boston Pizza wheel of prizes. You can win some great NFL jerseys. And, of course, enjoy ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and the best atmosphere at local sports bars around. And hey, if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And don't forget, all September long, kids eat free at BP. We are ready for Jet season, but if you're not quite ready, head on down to Royal Sports. You want to get that Taves jersey, a Velarde jersey, or maybe just a new hat or a hoodie for the upcoming year. Royals got you covered. Bomber gear, many exclusives that you won't find anywhere else, and a massive selection of NFL merchandise with all your favorite teams. And of course, Royal is the hockey superstore. One stop at Royal to get ready to drop the puck is all you'll need. They've been the hockey experts in town for over 50 years. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Check them out on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And just before we bring in Ed Tait, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, Ed Tait joins us now from BlueBombers.com as we get ready for a big one Saturday afternoon, Bombers and TiCats. Eddie, what's going on? Anything going on around the office this week?
Slow news week, Huss. Nothing going on whatsoever.
Hey, listen, you've covered the game for a long time and have a deep affinity for the CFL. What was your reaction and thoughts on everything we heard from the commission earlier this week?
You know, for me, it was an interesting couple of days because when the press release came out Sunday, I was like a lot of people thinking, oh, they put major changes into the headline on the press release. I thought, here we go. What's this going to mean? And so maybe it's because I was fearing the worst that I didn't feel as bad about what unfolded on Monday as I thought maybe I would. The rule changes are what they are. I have some skepticism about some of the numbers that they threw out, that removing the goalpost or putting them to the back of the end zone is going to mean 60 more touchdowns. I don't know that. I know they have an analytics department, but that felt like a made up number. I haven't had a lot of players or quarterbacks, coaches over the years tell me that the goalposts were in the way. I mean, there's been some infamous moments there where key passes have hit the uprights.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah, people talk about the 2019 West Final. There was I go back far enough that the 1994 East Final, Baltimore Stallions at Winnipeg Stadium, Winnipeg lost that game 14-12, and late in the game, Dunnigan had Daryl Wilcox wide open in the back of the end zone and hit the upright. So it's happened to Winnipeg too. So, I guess I'm a little bit skeptical about that. I understand that taking that out will seem to open up the middle of the end zone at the front. So that's intriguing to me. I like the standardized clock rule. I was talking to a player yesterday to try to help me understand that. And he said, because the referee, it was at his discretion when the play got whistled in again, oftentimes when Winnipeg was trying to milk a lead, they would wait until the last second and then throw out a bunch of personnel changes so that the referee had to wait before he blew it in. I think standardizing that is good. I don't understand shortening the field 10 yards. The change to the end zone makes sense to me because you got to have universal end zones, and they didn't. We don't right now in this league with the corners being cut off in Montreal and Toronto's only being 18 yards. So a lot of what they did, I really like, and a lot of it, I want to wait and see what happens.
Eddie, let's get into the latest with the Bombers, though. I appreciate that your thoughts on it. I definitely wanted to get to it, and if you joined us late, we had the commissioner on earlier on today, so you can see what Stewart Johnston had to say when we talked about it here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I joked to many people and the guys in the group chat when we got that announcement. We were always saying, "What the hell is this? What's going to happen?" I'm like, "Oh my God." That Bomber game on Saturday was so ugly, the commissioner was forced to act. An all-time win against Ottawa in the most bizarre circumstances. But man, they got it done. They got to 7-7, and it seems like things are trending positively for one Zach Collaros, who's been out at practice this week, just in time.
Yeah, I was looking at some numbers, and I had Steve Daniel from the league talk to me about the passing totals from that Ottawa game, just to go back to that, Huss. I appreciate good defensive football, and we all kind of slid to the front of our seats when Trey Vavel returned the missed field goal for a touchdown and almost had a second one returned. Cam Allen had a big game with 2 interceptions. So, 2/3 of Winnipeg's team looked pretty good. And they did run for over 170 yards, so that's part of it too. But man, when you go 3 for 8 for 54 yards, I use this in a story, but that's the lowest passing total for the Bombers since a 15-1 loss in 1975. And just to put, we all know how long ago that is. A lot of people probably watching your show, Huss, weren't alive. I wasn't even a teenager then. So look at me and realize how long ago that was. That's crazy. That's something that's got to get fixed. But your point about Zach, yesterday's practice was closed. They weren't practicing today. On Tuesday, man, he looked good. And maybe that's because it's, a few days after watching what we saw with the passing game on Saturday, but he looked great at practice. I'm hoping that translates into him playing and looking good on Saturday too. The part B to that, and we're all living that right now, is every time he gets hit, I kind of have my hands over my face, right? Is he going to get up? And that's where we're at right now with a guy that's missed 4 starts and didn't finish 3 other games. That's half of the season where he hasn't been available for the full 60 minutes. So that's the biggest thing with this team right now is can Zach Collaros stay healthy and give them the kind of quarterbacking they need?
Yeah, I mean, listen, and I said this on the show on Monday, but as much as, there was lots of jokes or whatever about the Bombers win that game, I don't think that they have to apologize to anybody for it because it is the ultimate team game. And if your defense can step up, your special teams, your running game can make up for a lack of effectiveness in another side of things, I mean, good on you. I mean, you know what? You don't like it, beat them. And the Ottawa Redblacks weren't able to do that. And listen, I mean, when it came down to it, the fourth quarter, when everyone knew what was coming, they couldn't stop it. And that was a big thing. But to me, the biggest thing that gives me optimism for the Bombers, and this really goes back to, the Saskatchewan games, is just how this defense has gotten better and better and better throughout the season. I mean, think of our conversations in the first sort of 4 or 5 weeks of the year. And you lose the corners. I mean, there was a lot of concern around that. And, I'll give Jordan Younger a ton of credit, as well as the athletes that are playing on the defensive side of the football. I mean, they stepped up and they won that football game for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, along with one of the gutsiest efforts we've seen from Brady Oliveira. You want to talk about earning a 100-yard game? Man, did he do that, because, I mean, they were simply ready for it. But the bottom line is that this is not sustainable. I mean, you can't have that blueprint and win multiple games moving forward. And that's why the importance of Zach Collaros being able to go was so big. And it sets up a really intriguing matchup against a team that you're going to need to score points against if you're going to win.
No, you made some excellent points there, Huss. You go back to the last time Winnipeg played Hamilton, and except for the two mistakes, the two interceptions by Chris Streveler, which were 14 points for Hamilton, Winnipeg's right in that game and had a shot at winning. So you put Zach Collaros behind center, and I think the storyline could be different. But to your point about the defense, Jordan Younger has done an outstanding job. You look at to your point again, what's happened in the secondary. Trey Vavel started some games at corner. Jamal Parker was at corner. He was at safety. You've got Dexter Lawson. You've got Terrell Bonds is gone for the year. Marquise Bridges was a corner at the start of the year. He's not even on the team. So there's been all kinds of changes in that secondary. And then yet in the last few weeks, as you pointed out, in the Labor Day Classic and Banjo Bowl, Trevor Harris was really controlled. Bo Levi Mitchell's numbers in the game in Hamilton were mediocre. Now, Drew Brown threw for over 400 last week, but after the first drive, I thought the defense really settled in and counterpunched whatever Tommy Condell and Ottawa was doing on offense. And a lot of Drew Brown's yards came late when they got that late score. And Winnipeg, was just making sure they didn't get beat deep, and he was taking all the stuff underneath. So that's I don't want to call it garbage time yardage, but it sure felt like that a little bit. So great point about the defense. This is a really intriguing unit because it's got some young guys back there, and that there's some potential. And, you get Willie Jefferson up at the line of scrimmage knocking down passes. I like Tony Jones and the linebacking core. There's an awful lot to like about it. And we saw in the past, as much as we all get excited about offense and prolific scoring and all that, the 2019 Grey Cup was won by defense. And that team in 2021 had one of the best defenses in CFL history, let alone Bomber history. So that might be the pathway to getting it done again. You're bang on about what happened last week is not sustainable. But it's not like that win gets an asterisk by it in the win column or anything, right? So you take it and you run away. It was on the road too, and you hope you can get your pass game energized for Saturday.
Eddie, fill us in. Obviously there were. Listen, Keurig Wheatfall. That is as hard of a hit I've seen in a professional football game in a long time, and
clean hit.
I don't think anyone. Yeah, definitely clean hit. I'm just happy he's still with us. After how crazy that was.
A little bit dramatic, but okay.
Yeah. Well, put it this way: when we start bringing up Dustin Byfuglien on Mark Stone levels of collisions,
yes.
It was big, and that one was it. So listen, I don't expect him to be there, but getting some good news. Jarrett Stearns back at practice. Mike Vanterpool, just give us a little idea about the availability of some of the players that have been question marks previously as far as how the game on Saturday goes.
Yeah, on Tuesday, the last practice that we saw, Carrick Wheatfall it's funny. He was out there dressed. He didn't participate a whole lot. So that's a good sign because the Bombers have a bye after this, and I would expect he could be good to go after that. Jared Stearns is full speed, and we saw, he's a tough little dude, and he was putting up some good numbers before he got hurt. So if that's the replacement, I think the Bombers are in pretty good position. A guy that they picked up recently that's had some really good practices, I'm not sure he's going to get in, but Cam Eccles, who used to play for Calgary and has been in this league, man, he's been impressive to me in practice. Now, I'm not sure if he's going to get a shot or not, but there's some more depth than you might think in the receiving core. Micah Vanterpool, too, as you said, is a neat option potentially along the line of scrimmage. That might mean a ratio change, or it would mean a ratio change, so I'm not sure where they go with that, but and maybe there's more depth to this team than we thought. They're without Dalton Schoen, and as we pointed out about Zach Collaros being out, we're not sure about Terry Wilson or Chase Artopia, so that's still a bit of a mystery. But there's some encouraging things coming into this week compared to last week, where we weren't sure about Zach. And man, again, I give Chris Streveler credit for gutting out that win. I mean, he had that long run that led to his own touchdown run that was critical. And I'll just throw this in there too, Huss. After the game, Jeff Hamilton and I went into the locker room to do interviews. And I asked Chris, was Ottawa doing anything to take the pass game away from you guys? And to his credit, he didn't bite my head off because he could have. He said, well, how many passes did I throw? And it's a good point, 8. So, that's one drive for some quarterbacks in this league. And so he was just operating the offense. And again, I'm beating a dead horse here, but getting Zach back this week is massive for balance. And to further to one of your points from earlier too, Huss, when I talked to Brady Oliveira yesterday, this is a story that I'll have posted later today. He said that 100 yards he had, that 172 they had, was as well earned as any running yards they've had since he started being the feature back, because Ottawa stacked the box with 9 guys and knew they were going to run, and they were still able to get it done consistently and do it enough that they got a win out of it.
Yeah, listen, my read of it was that, listen, Streveler, at the start of the game, he was throwing the football. Once that pick happened, and when you think about what happened against Hamilton, I think Jason Hogan and Mike O'Shea said, listen, we're not doing that right now. And, what do you call it? Putting the handcuffs on, or just, you run the plays that the coaches call. And I don't think they had the confidence that the passing game was the way that they were going to win, but they had confidence in other areas that they could get it done. And they did. It's cliche. We want to go 1-0 this week, but that's what they went there to do. And they got it done. Now, don't come with that same attack tomorrow or future, but every game is different. You have different personnel. And as I say, no apologies needed. Just move on, try and be better, and get that next win, and that's what it'll be. Eddie, looking forward to that piece at bluebombers.com. Looking forward to the game. Just before we go, I meant to ask you this. Do you know when did Canadian Stadium open? Like, at what point did the Bombers start playing at Polo Park?
I'm going to say 1953, early 50s. I'd have to double check that, but 1953. Joe Pascucci pointed this out too. And at Old Osborne Stadium, they had smaller field and
it was 100 yards.
Exactly.
15-yard end zones.
Yeah. It was 1951, 53. I'm sorry for not knowing that exactly, but early 50s. And they
I didn't even know when the era was, whether it was the early 70s or late 60s or when it was. But
right, they called it the house that Jack built because Jack Jacobs was filling the air with passing. And remember, the forward pass wasn't that big for a while there. So he was so electric that, the crowds at Old Osborne Stadium started to swell, and that's when they built the new place at Polo Park.
Yeah, Remis just looked it up. Yeah, it was 1953, so you were right there. Ed, good luck to the fellas. We'll have the walkthrough tomorrow, and then another full house for a huge game on Saturday afternoon against BLM and the Hamilton TiCats. Thanks so much for doing this.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Good stuff. There's Ed Tait, bluebombers.com. for all of Ed and the wonderful Bomber team with the content heading into the game on the weekend. All right, I did get a nice win yesterday on our horse picks. Little Eddie, the long shot in race 6, came through. Win for us. I'm got a nice lead, but as we all remember, last year, 3 races to go, the biggest win in the history of our head-to-head competition came through. So it is not over, and we do have live racing next week and the following week, which is great because we've got some beautiful weather right now, and normally the season is done. So for those of you that have still been aching to get out to the track, you've got 4 more chances to do it. Next Tuesday and Wednesday, the following Tuesday and Wednesday, live racing, free admission, free parking, post time of 7:30. I'm actually heading to the dining room with my folks next Wednesday. Looking forward to that. Of course, you can call and make it a reservation if there is room any night of live racing for that incredible prime rib buffet over at Assiniboia Downs. And Pat Gregoire is going to join us. We're going to hit this Thursday nighter coming up. Do not forget, tomorrow, 10 a.m., we'll have the latest edition of WST Winners with our Week 4 picks against the spread, props, touchdown scorers, and more. And yesterday after the program, if you missed it, cannot wait for the Ryder Cup. Patty's a huge golf guy. Ryder Cup WST Winners is also up right now on the YouTube channel and on the podcast. So if you're as fired up for the golf as we are, check that out. Leave a comment on the YouTube channel right now for WST Winners for the Ryder Cup. Of course, we'll have Breezy Bend golf reports throughout the weekend into next week for my favorite golf event of the year. Breezy Bend finishing up an amazing season and already getting ready for 2026. If you're looking for an incredible private course to be your long-term home on the golf course for you and your family, give our pal Corey Johnson a call at the clubhouse, or check out more membership information at breezybend.ca for 2026. Speaking of Pat Gregoire, P. Greggy joins us now on the program. And Pat, great to see you today. It was great to see you last night. What a great night we had at the poker tourney, with the exception of we have to endure a live victory lap tomorrow on the program by Jeff Hamilton, who is now a 2-time winner. And I hope I didn't overstep my boundaries, but I made a statement on the program that there has to be a bounty on Hammer's head for the next WST tournament.
Well, if you're a 2-time champ, there's absolutely no chance that we can't have a bounty on his head. And after the smack talk, even he delivered yesterday on the program. I was listening. He thought we were icing him out. He thought you guys weren't allowing him back. Just not the case at all. But now a 2-time champ, he's going to be waxing poetically about his victory tomorrow. I think it's a no-doubter that there's got to be a bounty on his head. I played for the first time, was not a great showing, bought in a few times, didn't really help my cause at all, but I still had a lot of fun. I think I'll be in for next one. I think Jake is even thinking of it. So we might have maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 bounties sniffing around some people's heads. So I think next one, these are always a banger. These are absolutely always a banger, but I think next one might be one of the most highly anticipated poker series we've had for WST.
No doubt about it. And Remo just mentioning, I mean, it's not your fault. You were probably tilted from what's going on with the Blue Jays right now.
Oh, it was a total tilt. I could not stand watching the Blue Jays anymore. I looked, I was like, oh, I saw your tweet. You know what? I'm going to join this. And I hopped in and, it did not stay cool. Definitely did not stay cool at the felt last night. Bought back in 2 times, 3 times. It was not good. It was not good, but it was fun. It was fun. I needed to cool off and kind of unwind after another frustrating Blue Jays game.
Oh, speaking of the Blue Jays, I had forgot, but this is a matinee today, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Let's see.
Going today.
No, it's a 7:07 local start.
Okay. I just, a lot of times on these Thursday games, it's the get out of town day for the opponents, but no, 6:07 tonight. And Louis Varland on the hill tonight. But this, Pat, as I've told everyone, Jays fans are down right now. It could be worse. Talk to your friendly neighborhood Detroit Tigers fan right now, and you'll feel a little bit better. You will have playoff baseball. And we'll see if they can hang on. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, we won't dive into tons of Ryder Cup talk because we have a full WST winners episode on the Ryder Cup that's up right now. And of course, if you go to Coolbet, winners, point totals for players, who's going to be the first out in singles. I mean, so many great markets. What I'm waiting for, and you'll probably know this, when do we get the matchups for tomorrow for the first pairings for the Ryder Cup? Because that is what I can't wait to rip the Coolbet to see what the odds are and who's playing who.
I heard it's Thursday evening, so it could be at any point. I do know media was out of the way. Practice rounds today got underway, so I would not be surprised if the captains and all the advisors and everyone on each on Team Europe and Team USA are going over the possibilities. But from what I've been told from the Twitterverse, we should expect some matchups a little bit later tonight. Maybe while we're watching this Thursday night football game, maybe it comes down the wire.
Well, we'll be all over it. And as soon as you hear that matchups are set, get over to there. And by the way, I mean, the one thing for those of you that like to, if you're looking to bet the actual matches, it's quick turnaround from the morning session to the afternoon session. So as pretty much as soon as the early broadcast is finished, the captains will be putting the names in, and that's when you want to go and pony up for the afternoon rounds in the Ryder Cup. I will just mention, I mean, we've been following this market for 6 months, and Europe, you know, for the most part, I always thought was in and around like plus 140, plus 145, plus 165 now on Europe. So if you waited, I think you're going to get the best number available. Right now, the odds for the Ryder Cup, minus 154 for USA. Home field or home court traditionally in the Ryder Cup is huge. 11-1 for a tie. And Europe plus 165 to be the winning team of the Ryder Cup. We got the Blue Jays game tonight. The Jays, despite it being a bullpen game, are favored. Earlier today, it was minus 139. It's minus 141 right now. Red Sox plus 120. Hope that comes to pass. The Yankees, of course, they've got the White Sox this week, so you just assume that they're going to win. But we do have an NFLer tonight, and this is an interesting one, Patty. It's a divisional game, NFC West, Seahawks and Cardinals. The Seahawks, a road favorite, very slight though, minus 1.5. The money line on this one is minus 127. Arizona plus 116. What are your thoughts on this big divisional matchup for the Cards, who lost by 1 point last week to the Niners, and the Seahawks, who had what could best be described as a scrimmage, just absolutely beating the daylights out of the Saints. They were up 38-3 about 20 minutes into the game and one running away. A big game in the division. I'm really looking forward to see Sam Darnold continue what he's done so far with his start. And I'll be honest, I haven't been a big believer in the Cardinals for the last few years. They got to go about it without James Conner, who's quietly been one of the more consistent running backs in the NFL. What's your read on tonight?
Yeah, this one here tonight is your usual, divisional game between two teams that I don't know if we've necessarily learned too much about them. Just with the way that the teams that they've played, I think a lot of people were kind of on two completely different sides when it comes to this Cardinals team. Me, much like you, not really impressed, wasn't having too much high expectations. And then you talk to some other people, they're on the complete other side. They believe that this Cardinals team is a team that's in it for the division. And when you look at the record and you look at everyone else in this division, there is definitely an opportunity for that. I seem to think that the Seahawks are the better team. I think they, when you look at what Sammy Darts has been able to do, although his numbers maybe aren't as jaw-dropping as we saw at the start of last year, and heck, all the way through last year when he was playing with the Vikings. When you look at some of those efficiency numbers, he's the number one efficient quarterback in the NFL right now. I think the emergence of JSN as a true number one wide receiver with DK Metcalf leaving, I think that's somewhere that I'm going to target as well. I probably stay away from the total here, Huss, just because it is the divisional game. I think the Cardinals, maybe if this was in Seattle, you're looking at the Seahawks maybe by a field goal. I can't get a true read on either team, so I'll stay away from the total. But with that being said, there's a lot of different props that I'm looking forward to betting on certain angles, and I think this should be an interesting Thursday nighter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking. I was just sometimes I'll check over at Fantasy Points just for some of their projections and compare them to where we're at with what the market is. You know, they're kind of thinking Sam Darnold in and around 240 through the air today, which is a bit of a cushion over the total, which is over 228. I am not in on Kyler Murray. You know, his total is about 216. If I had to, I think I'd probably go with the under on that one. But the rushing is interesting. Like, by all accounts, we don't have a confirmed, you know, actives as of yet. But from a fantasy perspective, I love the fact that Coolbet has Zach Charbonnet numbers up right now. What that does to Kenneth Walker, I guess we will see, because Walker was kind of a chalk play last week if you were DFSing and everything, knowing that Charbonnet was out for a week. But Kenneth Walker's numbers are a lot lower this week. 51.5 is the number on Walker. And at the same time, I mean, they're obviously expecting that Charbonnet is going to get some. 43.5 is the number on that. If Charbonnet is playing, I don't mind him as a potential touchdown scorer in this game.
Yeah, the touchdown scoring market is certainly interesting. I agree with Charbonnet. I still think like that Walker is going to get a heavier dose and probably will have more touches, but I do think Charbonnet will be more involved in the red zone. I think that's probably where you can get some value. The thing that I think, again, this is Huss, we talk about it all the time. If you see a number that you like, you're better off betting it earlier, because I was seeing that Kenneth Walker attempts at 12.5. And I thought that's the perfect spot for him. You still get Charbonnet, even if, let's say, he gets 9, 10 carries, and then you look at maybe a guy like Walker who gets close up to 15. Now you're looking at the 12.5. It's minus 141, and then 14.5 is plus 131. So you're kind of middled here. I mean, maybe we can get a 13.5 number put up there, and that's the one that you want to get. It's just, again, when you miss out on that, that's unfortunate. But I mentioned where I'm going to go is with JSN, over 82.5 reception yards. I also like his receptions total as well, but I like the yards even better. Right now this season, Hussey's averaging 107.5 yards per game and just under 8 receptions per game as well through the first 3 weeks of the season. 323 reception yards. That's second in the entire NFL. And he has the highest target share in the entire league amongst wide receivers at 40.28. You know, a lot of talk with Sammy Darts last year. When he finds a guy that he's comfortable with, he sticks to that guy. He sticks to his comfort blanket, and that's been JSN so far. On the flip side of the ball, you know, talking about how can't really get a read on the Cardinals, one thing that I have been able to get a read on is whoever wide receiver number 1 is going up against Arizona, they absolutely cook this defense. You look at who they face so far. In the Saints, Olave, he had 54 yards. His total was set at 50.5. McMillan from the Panthers, his total was set at 61.5. He walked away with 100. And then last week, Ricky Pearsall finished with over 100 yards as well. So back-to-back weeks where you've given up 100 yards to a number 1 receiver. I think the same thing happens again with JSN this week.
Patty's primetime parlay is up, mandatory on the over 3.5 field goals. I think this is a field goal game like that in this one. Kyler Murray rushing attempts over 5.5 and JSN receptions over 5.5. I will be riding with you on that. And shout out to Jake, whoever did this one. This parlay is just called Who? Troy Horton over 2.5 receptions and Greg Dortch over 2.5 receptions. That one's boosted to just about 5-1 at plus 498. What is the field goal prop for tonight? Over minus 105 for over 3.5. So our auto bet, I think we should get a win when it comes to the field goals for this primetime game tonight. And of course, Pat, now we can watch this game tonight, prepare for Ryder Cup, and also prepare for tomorrow morning with our picks against the spread. I feel like I'm seeing the board very well. I come in with full confidence for tomorrow morning, despite still not able to rid myself of the stench of the worst beat I can remember. Rams plus 3.5 last week against Philly, up 19 in the second half. 2 blocked field goals, including one on the final play of the game that went the other way for a touchdown and the cover. I may never get over this one, but we're going to have to, because tomorrow at 10 a.m., Week 4 NFL WST winners will be live. Thanks for doing this, and I will look forward to chopping it up with you and Jake for the picks for tomorrow's show.
Get some good night rest. We've got a lot of labbing to do. We got to get back into the lab, make some big picks. Hey, we won our touchdown parlay. Not enough people are talking about that. Hey,
good point.
So even though we got our hearts ripped out of our chest with some of those bad beats with our spreads, the touchdown parlay cashed. So we'll look to do that again this week as well.
We'll be cooking up the house callers. Check out the show tomorrow if you want to join live, 10 a.m. here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, available anytime before Sunday. And, of course, all of our boosted parlays and whatnot will be up in the combo cards or the exclusives over at coolbet.com. Patty, we'll talk to you soon, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Huss.
Good stuff. There's Pat Gregoire. Give him a follow at PGreggy. And, of course, join us on the WST Winners segments. I'm really looking forward to our hockey specials coming up. We're going to be doing, myself, Remis, and Connor, doing a Winnipeg Jets special. And then we've got a couple coming up with futures for both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, all before the puck drops in a couple weeks on the NHL schedule. Well, this has been a real fun show. We've kind of gone a little long. Let's get Remo back in here just before we wrap it up. Reem, do you have any thoughts on this football game tonight?
Yeah, I can't believe the disrespect there on Greg Dortch by putting him under the who.
Under who?
I've been all over Greg Dortch for years when he's had an elevated role. Great, he's a small guy, but pretty good at catching short passes. I'm with Pat on the JSN. This guy's, he's got the numbers of like one of the top receivers in the league this year. So I like that. And, you know, Ken Walker, he's coming. He does get some action in the receiving game. His receiving, I think, prop was like 11.5. I was on the over on that one. And how about this one? Kyler Murray. He's a bit erratic. Kyler Murray to throw an interception. It's Thursday night football. It's sloppy out there. So how about that one? So there you go. That's how I'm thinking of this game. I got a lot invested. I have Ken Walker in some leagues and Trey Benson I have in one league too after the injury to the group.
He's now the starter along with Mercado now that James Conner is out. By the way, just with Pat gone, he does have a Greggy's golf special for Ryder Cup. Victor Hovland over 1.75 points, Tommy Fleetwood over 2.25, and Ludwig Oberg plus over 1.75. That's got a nice boost up to plus 404. And just a quick update on those CFL lines. I'm looking at our CFL 110 Week 17 boost. We had the Alouettes to beat the Stamps, the Bombers to beat the TiCats, and the Argos plus 10.5. As I remind you folks, usually try and get that on that early. I think we were betting it at like plus 470. Well, now with all these line movements, it's down to plus 356. The CFL lines with Davis Alexander starting in the Calgary quarterback situation, Montreal's now a 4.5 point favorite. Arbuckle's starting for the Argos, so that 10.5 is now 7. And the Bombers, who are 1 point dogs, are now 1 point favorites with the expected return of Zach Calero. Saskatchewan still 4 point favorites on the Elks. And if you are doing your own parlay or pick, don't forget every week, once a week for the Canadian Football League, you can click that green box and get a 30% profit boost on your favorite bet for the weekend. All right, that is going to do it for us. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., while we're watching the Ryder Cup, we'll be diving into our Week 4 picks against the spread, or try and get you another touchdown scorer, parlay winner, some props. That's going to be on at 10. And then a big episode of Winnipeg Sports Talk, including Jeff Hamilton, who will certainly victory lap all of us after doing it again and winning the WST poker tournament last night. Got to respect the game, but there's a bounty on his head for next time we do this. Thank you to Stewart Johnston, Commissioner of the Canadian Football League, for joining us. Ken Wiebe, Pat, and of course, Ed Tait from BlueBombers.com, Michael Remis, and everybody in the chat. Lots of takes flying today. Love the conversation. Appreciate all of you. Have a great Thursday night, and join us for marbles and much, much more tomorrow on our Friday edition of WST, heading into a couple Jets preseason games and a big one for the Bombers Saturday afternoon at Princess Auto Stadium. Have a great one. We'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. live right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.